This is way too quiet. Absolutely too quiet.
All right, I think that's done.
Says a lot.
Thank you all for joining us for the June 19th, 2018 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission. Let's begin this meeting. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Between now and our next county commission meeting, our nation will celebrate the 4th of July, celebrating our nation's independence. So as we begin this meeting this evening, I'd like for us all to reflect on all those who serve our community and serve our country, all of the men and women in public safety and law enforcement, all of the public staff who help make sure that important services are provided to the people of Buncombe County every day, to the men and women in our nation's armed forces who serve at home and around the world. So before we begin this meeting, let's hold a moment of silence during which people can offer a silent prayer of appreciation for all the blessings of this country, and let's pray for the safety of those who serve our country so well. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And thank you again all for joining us. If you have a cell phone with you, I would like to ask everyone who's here to please silence your cell phone before we start the meeting. And speaking of people who have served the public so well, this is sort of a bittersweet meeting this evening because we are saying our goodbyes to a county employee who has served Buncombe County for 35 years. Kathy Hughes is our clerk of court, who I'm sure many of you know and have worked with on the years, over the years, on many different things, large and small, to help make this the community that we are and to achieve so many of the things that we've made progress on here. And so on behalf of the County Commission, Kathy, I want to say thank you, and we're going to miss you. And we've got, on behalf of the County Commission, a small gift that I'd like to share with you right now. And I would also like to let folks know that there is going to be a little reception for Kathy after this meeting, which might go on a while, but we now have another incentive to not talk too much. But there's going to be a reception with Kathy in room 330 right here outside the commission chambers when we get done with our business this evening. So if you are still with us, please stop by and join us in thanking Kathy for her years of service. And I understand that there is a delicious cake and refreshments, so please do join us. So we also want to welcome, on the same note, we want to welcome our new County Clerk Lamar Joyner, who has going to have his first meeting here with us this evening. And so the County Commission went through a very extensive search process when we learned that Kathy was going to be retiring, and we had over 200 people apply for this position, And a lot of them were, were really amazing. We did tons of interviews, and we had a great group of people to choose from. So it was not an easy decision, but of the entire group, the commission was in agreement that Lamar stood out as our best candidate. So we are very grateful for you joining our team in Buncombe County, Lamar, and thanks for being with us. Okay. Okay, to add it to the agenda? Well, we're getting to all of them. We're gonna get to all of them. Yeah, thank you very much, though. So the one other new person that we're with us with this evening is Heather Hockaday, sorry, who we voted on at our last commission meeting to appoint as county commission attorney. So Heather, thank you for being with us, and we're going to vote to formalize the contract later this evening, but she's already been appointed to serve the county commission. So that's just sort of a contract matter that we need to put in place. So Heather, thank you for being with us, and we look forward to working with you. All right. One other announcement before we get started. I want to announce that parking validation and bus passes are available for these commission meetings. So if you have used the county parking facility or public transit to attend the meeting this evening, you can validate your transit or parking pass with the security officers who are with us at the commission meeting this evening. Okay, and now I'd like to read the ethics reminder to the board. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Also, does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on all matters that are voted on by the board this evening. Okay, we come to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and to follow the remainder of the agenda, which includes the approval of the Heather Hockaday contract under new business?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. All right, our first public hearing this evening is a resolution authorizing refund of overpayment of taxes, and Brandon Freeman will explain the resolution.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am not sure if the attorneys are in the room here, if we have Mr. Peltz or anyone from the Peltz Law Firm, or Mr. Maida. These are pretty simple. It's pretty customary for them not to be here. Both of these are very similar. These are real estate transactions where monies was paid to the Buncombe County Register of Deeds rather than the Register of Deeds in another county. It usually happens when the parcels of property are on the border of the county, and it's a mapping error. In both of these cases, the monies have now been paid to the proper counties, and these law firms are just looking to have the money refunded to them.
The resolution's pretty clear, so I'll move approval.
Second.
Got to do public hearing?
Oh, public hearing.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Okay, I'll wait too.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you. We'll open the public hearing at 5:15. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 5:16.
Yeah, I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay. And Brandon, do we need one motion or two? There's two items on the agenda. Can this accomplish both?
I would
or-
defer to the board, but I would recommend two
Okay.
hearings.
No problem.
It looks like before the board right now is the resolution for the law firm of Worley and Peltz.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then there's another public hearing on a similar item for the law offices of Richard Mehta. So I'll open the public hearing on the resolution regarding that item. at 5:16. Seeing no one interested in commenting, I'll close it at 5:17. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, we now come to a discussion of the FY19 budget, and Jim Holland will start the conversation. And as we mentioned in the pre-session, I think the plan will be let's focus on the county budget first, and once we're through that, then we'll take up the fire district rates.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. Today is the culmination of a year's work in listening to the residents of this county and listening to departments, and most importantly, listening to you for direction on how you want the county taxpayer dollars spent toward the priorities and the mandates and the policies and the statutes that Buncombe County is responsible for providing to almost 260,000 people. So it's been a great journey that we've gone on together for the past year, and it's certainly, while it's taken a lot of time and a lot of your effort and a lot of effort of staff, it's been from our perspective, a very worthwhile experience, both from learning and understanding how the budget needs to be set, and also making sure that we're hearing from you exactly what it is that the people that put you in place are asking you to support. So thank you for that, and thank you for the effort and the time of the staff that has been part of this as well. So to recap what was in the budget that was presented to you on May 15th. The general fund budget was built on revenues of $311.9 million, an appropriated fund balance of $6.8 million, and total expenditures of $318,720,851. That is a budget that was presented to you on May 15th. In the time that we had the budget presented on May 15th till today, there was a public hearing. There were numerous input sessions that happened with the public to be able to provide feedback and information to you. And the budget and all of the documentation has been posted for 4 weeks to allow for public comment and public input on that. After listening to you and your recommendations coming back to us, there are some changes that were some small changes that were put into the budget. To highlight those, the detention center inmate health contract, we got the final number for that contract, and that was an increase of $85,500. We heard from you on the school resource officer detective position to remove that item from funding. We also heard that there are temporary positions that are currently in the sheriff's department budget that need to be made regular employees. So 2 of those positions in the general fund will be converted from a temporary to a regular employee. And 1 additional position will be moved to the enterprise fund, the inmate commissary fund, and transfer from a temporary employee to a regular employee. In addition, we heard from you that you asked us to reduce the contribution to Pack Place Cultural Partnership by $75,000 to a total of $100,000. So this budget today is being proposed to you with those changes. Those changes, the revenue still is $311,910,851. The appropriated fund balance is reduced by that $74,000 to be $6,735,242 for a total expenditure budget of $318,646,000 and $646,093. Want to take just a moment to highlight a couple of changes from the perspective of we now know what those numbers are, and that's for the public school funding. At the time that the budget was presented, May 15th, the budget at the state level was not settled, so there was an item that was marked as contingency. that outlined, pending state budget approval, what that could possibly be. The state budget was approved by the legislature. As you know, it was vetoed by the governor, and then the legislature overrode the governor's veto, so the budget is set for the state. So what this budget for Buncombe County Schools is proposed based on that original proposal is a base budget of $62,526,370. That represents the amount currently funded for this fiscal year. The increase that has been requested is $2,425,059. And then, as noted in the original proposal, there are 3 positions for behavioral health that there are opportunities that the school system can use to secure that funding from the state and federal government through a competitive process. We're still recommending that that funding move forward, but we're asking you to hold that in contingency pending the outcome of their solicitation of those funds. If those positions are not funded by the grant funding, then those dollars would be provided to the schools, or should they get the funding and the funding not be sufficient to cover the costs, this contingency would make up that difference. So based on the original proposal, the proposed allocation for Buncombe County Schools is $65,211,847. For Asheville City Schools, the allocation is based on an allocation based on the average daily membership, based on the allocation that you give to Buncombe County Schools. So that total is base budget of $11,681,184, again, which represents the current year funding. An increase based on the ADM of $455,059, and because there is a contingency of the $260 in the Buncombe County Schools budget, we put a contingency in the city schools budget of that same amount of a proportionate share of that, which is $48,867, for a total proposed budget for Asheville City Schools of $12,185,090. So how does that translate into the tax rate and the appropriated fund balance? So that proposed budget, $318,646,093, is based on a tax rate of 53.9 cents. That means an appropriated fund balance of $6.7 million, and as a percentage, that is 15.66%. Your policy recommends a 15% percentage. Couple of other minor things that you'll see in this ordinance that do not affect the general fund at all and are funded completely by other funds that are not taxpayer supported, property tax supported. It's a transportation fund. Those are mountain mobility dollars, and this is allow for an additional purchase of a vehicle, and those dollars are coming from mountain mobility or the transportation fund balance. In addition, the BCAT and Sheriff Forfeitures Fund, when the budget was originally presented, because of the change in our financial system, we thought that we did not need to put those in the ordinance. We've subsequently found that we do. Those are dollars that have been occurring and are supported by forfeiture funds, so we're asking to put $631,712 back into the budget ordinance. One area where we are looking to you for guidance is the levy for the tax rates for the fire districts. 12 of the 20 fire districts have asked for an increase over the current year tax levy. We ask you tonight to tell us what that is, and we'll plug those numbers in once you decide what those are, and we'll bring that back to you so that you can see the completed amount. For those districts that did not request an increase, we are assuming that you are happy to continue that at the same existing tax rate, and that's what we're proposing tonight. Just to highlight the budget ordinance itself, one of the things that you'll see or you notice this year is that we have streamlined the ordinance. That was a deliberate move based on direction from you to make sure that we focused on those things that were clearly budget items, and that we had that budget ordinance in a streamlined and a very defined process. We've also been able to have this draft budget ordinance available for public inspection for the last 4 weeks. It's been available online. I'd like to take just a moment to outline the different components that you'll see in the budget ordinance so that if you have any questions, we'll be happy to try to answer those. So this budget ordinance outlines your appropriations for the general fund. It outlines appropriations for other funds, and as you see in the ordinance, those would be, for example, enterprise funds like the inmate commissary fund or like solid waste that are funded by other revenues. It establishes the property tax rate for the general fund. It establishes a tax rate for Asheville City Schools. It establishes the fire district tax rates. It sets forth your compensation. And it outlines parameters for the county manager for authorization for transfers between funds up to $75,000. And it also establishes the pay classification and pay plan and any new positions that are being put forward. So in short, that's the process. That's what we're asking you to consider tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and certainly we'll look forward to getting more information from you, particularly as it relates to fire district levies.
All right, thank you, Jim. I will bring it back to the board for deliberation. We held the formal public hearing on the budget at our last meeting. So now it's the time for the board to make the final decisions and approve the FY19 budget.
You need a motion to approve the budget.
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the fiscal 19 budget, 2019.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I know there's a number of items people would still like to talk about a little bit further. So I've heard topics related to the county school detective position, school funding, education funding, commissioner compensation, maybe others as well. But would anybody like to? I'd just like to suggest if there's topics that people want to clarify where we're going to land exactly, to just feel free to bring them forward, and we've got a motion with a second on the floor. So if anyone would like to make amendments to the budget for any clarification of any details, large or small, then we can just go through those and deliberate on them and vote on the amendments. So does anybody want to tee us off on any of those issues?
Yes, I'd like to bring a motion that we include the request for the school resource officer, detective officer.
Second?
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve funding for the school detective coordinator position out of the sheriff's department to work with the county school system.
And that's 79,613 is the amount. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion to amend is approved. They're not usually so bashful. What else?
We aren't, are we?
Amendment on the pay, remove it from the agenda.
There's a motion to remove the pay from the agenda? Okay. So let me just say a couple things about this. So the item on the agenda is the FY19 budget. So my view is that any items related to appropriations or spending in the FY19 budget, any amendments can be made for that topic, and they can only be approved by a majority of the board. So I think that's the process we'll handle. So if there's currently there's no motion on the table to do anything on that, but if there is a motion made, then it would have to be approved by a majority of the board. And I'll just go ahead and do it. All right. So I would like to make a motion to regarding the establishment of county commission salaries for FY19 and 20. This was an issue that I brought up earlier this year, but I was advised correctly by our staff that this is actually by, state law it can only be set in the annual budgets. So if we're going to change it, then this is actually the only time during the year that it can be changed. So I circulated an email with some additional information to commission members about this recently, and I've got copies of it here with me if anyone would like to look at any of those, to have them in front of you. But you know, here's the basic idea I want to share with the commission. You know, I think county commissioners work really hard. Nobody's making a lot of money doing this work, but
for sure.
you know, county commissioners, when you look at how much county commissioners are compensated across North Carolina and other locations, there's a very strong relationship between the size of the county that they're serving and what the compensation is. The larger, most populous counties tend to have the highest compensation. You know, really small, rural counties with very low populations typically only pay a few $1,000s a year, perhaps, to compensate their county commissioners. So, and there's a lot of, you know, I think there's a lot of logic to that because, you know, larger counties with more population, there is more constituent services required. There's just more going on in larger organizations than in smaller ones. And so, generally speaking, I think it makes sense for the compensation of commissioners to be correlated to where they are relative to other counties in population. So North Carolina, Buncombe County is currently the 7th largest county in North Carolina. But the chair of the county commission and the county commissioners were currently compensated the 2nd highest in the state. And so my proposal is that we adjust the county commissioner chair and county commissioner salaries such that we would be the 7th highest compensated county commissioners and chair in the state. Just exactly correlating to where we fit in terms of our population size relative to other counties in the state. And, you know, and part of the reason for bringing this forward is that, you know, I think this is not gonna move the needle a lot in terms of where we land in this year's budget. But we have really been wrestling with issues around the county's financial management for the last year. There's just no way around it. And I think we have looked for ways, and I think we have made a lot of progress in changing county policies to make sure county tax dollars are spent responsibly. But part of that is looking at ourselves too, and how we fit into this. And there is a perception out there as a result of some irresponsible actions that have been taken that too many people who work for the county are in it for the money, which is not the case. But that perception exists, and I think we have to do everything we can to communicate that people are in it for the right reasons. And those are the reasons I bring this proposal forward. The specific adjustments, if this motion, and this is in the form of a motion, if it were to be adopted, would change the compensation for the chair position from $37,650 to $24,300, and for the county commissioners, including the vice chair, to $21,098. So I'm going to make that as a motion, and I appreciate consideration. It does.
Second?
Further discussion?
I'll open up discussion. I've wrestled with this and I support this motion. I want to just briefly share why and some of my thinking around it. As everyone knows, this continues to be a really important and in many ways difficult chapter in Buncombe County's work and our shared community. And I think one of the things we have asked county employees to do this year is to conduct a salary study to look at every single salary at the county and to work on making sure that folks who've been in the lowest quartile of that are getting compensation increases, but also to look at right-sizing salaries and make sure that, especially in leadership, that we're not seeing inflation in salaries. And I don't know how, in good conscience, we could ask county employees to do that and look out at a context where we hear from fire departments across the county and school systems across the county and first responders across the county, how hard they are working to pay folks salaries. I don't know how we could ask other agencies to do that without at commission having the same conversation. Part of why I've wrestled with this, though, is that because I know that for a long, long time, the only folks who could really entertain running for office were folks who were independently wealthy and or retired, because there was no real way to make it work otherwise. I'm a working mom. There's other working parents and many other configurations of families on this board, but the reality is that if we want to continue making seats at the table for elected leadership that truly represents our community, we have to think about the question of how elected officials are compensated for that time, and that this isn't something that only those who are independently wealthy can afford to do. So that's where the wrestling has come from. But in the climate we're in right now, when I weigh all of that in totality, I land in support of this measure, and a commission, in this instance, walking the walk of doing what we're asking other people to do, and really acknowledging that, while we've done a lot of good hard work this year, we have a lot of work yet to do to make sure that we're fully upholding the fiduciary duty we have.
All right. Further discussion? Yeah. Mr. Fryer.
I think one of you probably wasn't here about 7 years ago. But the commissioners about 7 years ago were making the chair was making almost $50,000 with car allowance and computer and phone allowance. The vice chair was making 40-some thousand, and the actual commissioners were making $38,000. I brought that forward in a meeting. They cut all the perks. They come back with a number. And the first time that I was elected, I stayed with that number the total time. And now we're elected again, the number went up, but that's the way things happen. So we're staying at it the total time. We have no car allowance. I just looked, the little car that I have outside, I haven't taken it out of Buncombe County, but I put 18,000 miles on it. So Barnesville and all areas are pretty well out there. So this is not the right time to do this. I'm sorry. It was put to us last night in an email. So that's kind of normal. I call it hide and seek. And there it showed up. But I will not be voting for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was just waiting.
I am too.
I can not support this either, because whenever I was campaigning to run for this, I never knew that there was even a salary involved in this. I thought this was my duty to uphold all our constituents out there, to do what I thought and what a board would think would be the right thing. And when they said that we would be here, at first and third Tuesday of every month and go over it, and said most of the meetings last an hour, hour and a half. That was a past history. Since I've been on here, we have 24 meetings a year off in July, which we've already scheduled one for July that we was not supposed to have. We've had 18 work sessions in the last year that last 4 to 5 hours. That was not before this current board here. 3-on-3 meetings before every county commissioner meeting. And with what's happened the last year and a half of how many special meetings have been called in, for a working man that has a job or woman that is called on the spur of the moment that we got to have a meeting, it's hard for the working person to do that. Yes, this job right here does not pay any money for anyone to live in Buncombe County off of if this is their job. But one thing that gets me is, of the 7 commissioners here, if you've got the insurance, with the county, which know of one or maybe more, I don't know this answer, that does not have any, is not using the insurance at all because they don't need it. So in that, it's just, I've always said you get what you pay for. And we did not take a raise last year. And all I can speak for is what I've heard. Commissioner Fryer has not took one in 5 years. So that's where I stand at here. If we want to work for nothing, maybe we need people to run this county that don't know nothing. Thank you.
I think we're looking at it upside down. I'm the first one to talk about firefighters not making enough money. We need to change that. We need to increase that. I'm the first one to talk about non-certified people in our school systems getting paid more money. I know people that where people work, they get paid far more money. I know for me, it won't affect me. I'm not running again. But I do know we don't want to have a board of people that are just wealthy. I had to hire 1.5 people at my business so I could be a county commissioner. They get paid far more than I do. And I think, you know, for us, it's a gratuitous gesture. It would mean $48,000. I can appreciate the sentiment of salary studies, but if we go down, we're getting down, instead of increasing everybody, the firefighters, non-certified, and saying the commissioners are going to go down in their salary, what message does that say? I don't think anybody wants a board that doesn't have to worry, think about money. And if we keep lowering these salaries, let's do it for nothing, you know, because it's a token gesture. And I think we need a board of real people that represent our community. And the amount of hours this takes, I agree with Commissioner Presley. You get what you pay for. And, you know, after the last year, people may not think a lot of us, but I know how much work we put in to try and right-size the county. And so I regretfully say I can't support this, and I think it's going the wrong way.
I agree with Commissioner Frost. And for me, being one of the newcomers on the board, and when I ran, money didn't come into the play because I was more concerned about what we can do to help the people in Buncombe County. In a recent conversation I had with my wife, she pointed out to me, she said, Al, this is the hardest you've worked in years, and you don't get anything for it. You know, but we do. But what we get, we don't get, you know, I think it's, I don't even know how much it is exactly, 28.9 something for me. I don't get anything. I don't know how many miles I put on my car. I don't have any insurance with the county. All I have is that salary. And sure, I could do it for nothing. That's true. But do we want to send a message? One, I want to live in a county where everyone can participate in government. That's a democracy, folks, and that's what we need to do. We know that none of us are going to get rich, by no means. And if you're looking for that, you don't come on the county commission for that. I don't think about hours. You know, the time I spend in meeting with constituents in the community, and not all in my district either, or when I'm speaking to the 8th grade graduating class at Francine Delaney. That's all part of the job, and I understand that. But when we start reducing the salary, and let's talk about the 10 largest counties in the state, we're in that range, I agree. But let's be careful there, because we're living in one of the most expensive neighborhoods to live in the state, if we wanted to look at that way. And I know some of these counties we're talking about. I know some of the perks they have too, because I have friends on the commissions across the state. But I don't think at this point in time, when we are pulling up our sleeves, and let's face it, we're cleaning up a mess, and we all know that. We're trying to be transparent. But I don't think this is the time to cut the salaries for the commissioners. And sure, I agree. I wasn't here when a lot of this happened. But once you sit in the seat, hey, you earn, you're part of the mess and you've got to clean it up. And we'll do that. But I don't think our salaries are out of line at all. And I think we should keep our salaries where they are. Now, I agree. I didn't take an increase. I don't think I have since I've been on here, the 2% or whatever, and I don't plan to. But I think we need to be fair with our salaries as we have the others in the county. And, we didn't get commissioners, I don't think, got a retention bonus or anything like that, and we shouldn't have. But sure, we need to do our job and do a better job of it from what has happened in the past. And we are doing that. But I don't think this is the time to cut our salaries. I don't think that's fair to the commission to do that. You're devaluing what we do for the county. Are you saying we're not needed now? And I'll end on that.
Well, I appreciate everyone's thoughts on the topic. It's like people said, no one's getting rich doing this work, but I don't think that's I don't think that's the main point. There's not any other group of employees who work for county government, or probably any other part of our community, where in Buncombe County they're making the second highest in the state. It's just I just don't see how there's a justification that our county commission should be the second highest in the state. I just can't get around that that basic idea. I do think that the issue about making sure that elected office is accessible to people from all walks of life, I think that's very real. I think that's completely legitimate. When I think about what the state legislature pays people who serve in the General Assembly, it's crazy, because you have to turn your whole life upside down and travel 4 hours away, and it is really a problem. That is sort of a millionaire's club there. But county government's different. We live here. We go to a lot of long meetings. So do many people in this community. So I don't think making these kind of changes I can't think of anybody who's run for office over the last number of years who would not have done it if our salaries had been set, more reflective of the size county we are as opposed to near the top. I can't think of any person who would not have chosen to run for office had we done that. So anyway, I appreciate the discussion. Any other discussions, or we'll just vote on it and move on?
Yes, I got one more. And I don't know if this is the correct time or if you can even do this, but it's like I said, I did not come on here to be paid to do this job. And it sounds like the majority is against it. So if we can, talking with attorneys and everything, I'm willing to take that cut myself only down to the 10th largest or 7th largest. But I cannot ask, like Commissioner Frost says, when she is paying someone to do her job at her business when she's having to be here. So if I can do that, I'm willing to take the $6,000 cut in pay, and I will.
Okay. I tried to do that earlier this year, and they
I don't think you can do it.
they didn't let me.
don't think they'll
But it
let
wasn't
you.
during the budget process. So I would say this: let's vote on the motion. I think that if any commissioner individually wishes to accept a compensation rate lower than what's appropriated in the budget, unless someone starts nodding their head and saying that can't be done, I think it's okay to do it. Or, so Kurt, will you weigh in on that?
No, you set your salary in the budget, and that's what you get paid. I think that if you want to donate money or donate part of your salary back to the county, that's up to you. But we've been trying to have one set salary, and that's usually done at this time in the budget.
Okay. Well, thank you for chiming in on that. So, all right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
All right. The motion fails. What else?
I'd like to make a motion to lower the tax rate to 52.9.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to reduce the tax rate from 53.9 to 52.9. I'll comment on this. I'm open to doing some adjustment to the tax rate this evening, but I would not support changing it by that much. And the main reasons for that for me are that I think the county can get by with a tax rate change of that amount, or probably even more. You can get through one budget year with just about anything that's reasonable. But the question is, what is a sustainable tax rate? And I'm just concerned that a 1 cent, at 52.9 may very well not be sustainable. And I think the last thing that we want to do is lower the tax rate and then be in a position where we have to turn around and raise it again. So the analysis I've seen shows that if we reduced it that amount, and unless something significant happened in the economy, then we would, not this year, but next year, we would be going below the fund balance reserve policy that we have, and then the following year it would just be lower. So that's my concern, is that it's not that we can't get through this year, but that it's going to put us in a difficult position to either accept an unacceptably low fund balance amount or raise the tax rate either next year or the year after. So I'd prefer to do something a little more conservative on changes that hopefully we could kind of stick to it.
I can appreciate those thoughts, and this was not willy-nilly. This is not out of a hat. This was after many, many conversations with budget and our finance team coming up with different scenarios. And I think for all the reasons that were mentioned about lowering commissioner salaries, I think our citizens need a break. And I think I would never suggest this if this was not something sustainable. But we have many outlooks. We have many other things that we can look forward to. And for this moment in time, I think this is very sustainable. And I would never suggest it if it was not going to be for the good of the county.
Where will the fund balance be in 2 years if we do this, assuming that the economy stays similar to where we are today?
Robert,
I hadn't got my crystal ball, so I can't answer that. All I can answer is we can drop it 1 penny. I think we owe it to the people of Buncombe County to drop this tax rate. If for some reason we cannot keep it for 2 years, is why do we look 2 years down the road? Yes, we have to have a plan. But if we go off of last year's plan, whenever our old county manager said we could not drop below 55.9, and we went to 53.9, we're not looking to go up this year. We can still go down 1 penny. We have got to show the people that we are concerned of what they're paying in taxes, and I think it's $3.8 million that we'd be giving back. So if we're going to look and say what's going to happen 2 years from now, I don't care about that. Is if for some unforeseen circumstance comes up, we can adjust it. But when last year they said we would be in big trouble this year if we went below 55.9, and we're not. We're in better shape. And now with another penny, and let's just say we're sitting here next year and we can do another penny, then why are we holding out the money an extra year? That's just my point, and I support dropping the tax rate 52.9.
Well, I support it too, and I want to make sure that people understand that the pay raises for those that are considered middle and lower. None of this affects pay whatsoever. This discussion does not do that. And the numbers that we've looked at, we have to tighten up a little bit on maybe some contingency money and some other things like that. But it's very, very doable, and I believe necessary for a lot of reasons. Not just to cut the rate. I mean, that would be foolishness, as Commissioner Frost has said, this is not something that, you know, we've decided in the last, you know, hour and a half. I mean, this has been ongoing, and we've been crunching numbers. And I've got to say to staff that they've done an amazing job with putting up the numbers and letting us see, you know, how it could be, you know, how we're affected. And I think for that reason, I'm comfortable with it.
I land in a place where I am, again, open to discussing some reduction in the tax rate, but I'm not comfortable with reducing it by a full penny. You know, we look at lots and lots of different scenarios, and as you look at those, I think you have to constantly assess what level of risk makes sense in a community, and how to make sure that we are being responsible to fiduciary duty, and also that there's the funds in hand to cover essential services and support our schools. And I think we do have a responsibility to look more than 12 months down the line, and to think about not just this fiscal year, but fiscal years ahead, and not to bake in assumptions to bake in only favorable assumptions. You know, this is a period where there's a lot of volatility in the economy, and I think it's you know, we're getting closer and closer to that 15% mark on the fund balance, and I don't see how you could. I have a lot of concerns about whether we'd be able to sustain that lower rate. So open to discussing a rate of less than a penny, certainly. But I think we have a responsibility to think about the collective good and community good here. And I'd actually at one point asked county attorneys to research whether there was any mechanism through which we could give a rebate to taxpayers based on there being an ability to do that on a one-time basis. As my understanding is, North Carolina law doesn't allow us to do that. I wish it did. It doesn't. So I understand the impulse to want to give taxpayers some of their money back. But the reality is, when you look at what this 1 penny would deliver for a lot of folks in the county, it would be a reduction of somewhere between $15 and $35 in their annual property tax bill. And you look at the other side of the work we need to do with this county budget, and the funding that needs to happen for schools and for other essential services. And I just think that you know, I land that we need to prioritize making sure there's a good, strong plan in place for not just 1 year, but looking ahead. And I think the current tax rate, or a slight reduction in the current tax rate, allows us to do that and stay safely in that lane of being responsible stewards of taxpayer funds, and not being highly reactionary. You know, there's an ongoing federal investigation that's going on, and until that's concluded, I feel like I'm going to land in the column of being risk averse around matters of fiduciary duty and financial management.
So I've got another comment where I very much respect Ms. Farrar's position, and I always do the comments. There's a few words that were used that are not descriptive of my opinion. One is impulse. This is not an impulse decision on my part whatsoever at all. This is a wake you up in the middle of the night decision on what can you do and what should you do, and we should do something. And so this is something that can be done. It is not reckless. And I have not just baked in favorable assumptions. We've put in every scenario that we could possibly put in. And it's not only doable, it's practical. And finally, it is not reactionary. And also, $15 to $35 is a lot of money to some people. We have to get away from that. The $15 to $35 is a low amount. If not, you'll never reduce a rate by half a cent or a penny, because you can always use that analogy of a house. But I know that most of the people that I know, every little bit helps. So whatever you can do does help. So I figured this would be a pretty good discussion, and it is so far. So I hope that the public is enjoying the fact that we're actually talking about this, because in the past there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion around this, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the way it's being done also. So
one, or you want to go?
Well, let's, any commissioners who haven't spoken yet on this point, and then we'll come back and talk again, but anybody who hasn't spoken yet?
And
I'm-
I'm usually last.
You know, we're looking at a penny, and that's good. I think we're good, okay? It's took me a while, but we're good with that. But this penny that we're taking, and Jasmine, we got fire departments out here that want a penny. So we giveth, and that way they can give back and they still break even. Now, that's the one good thing about it is we can do it. It'll work. Mr. Presley's right. It brings it down, and we'll make it work. That's beside the point. But we have fire departments back here that, you know, they're looking for a little bit of money, and hopefully that this helps the taxpayer with being able to give them a little bit. And then we're not going to pull them back to revenue neutral. That's the one thing that I can say I'm not for, is if we pull a penny here, but we don't have the fire departments back down to revenue neutral. So, thank you.
You know, this is something I've wavered back and forth on, but I'll tell you folks, being a conservative banker for years, one good thing that's made me feel good over the last year is that we have finally, I feel, we've righted the ship, so to speak. I feel that for once we have a budget that I feel comfortable with. We know where we are. We know how much money we have. We know what we have in the fund balance. And that changes, as you know, from day to day. And as we talk about lowering our salaries, what we want to do, but the key is our constituents, the people in the county. And we have got to let them know, and I think this penny is only fair to do because we can manage. When you look ahead, sure, we don't know what, things hold in store. The stock market is down today, I think 400 points. I don't know where it ended up. But either way we look at it, when we look at this, even if we do it with the fund balance, we'll be fine. And I think when I look at where we are with the budget, I have the confidence that I do believe we're making the right decision when we give the penny back to our constituents. It's only fair. Who knows what the future holds in store, but we need to be concerned about today, and I think it's fiscally sound what we're doing. I think we are fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility, because in doing that, one of the keys to elected officials today is we need to have the backbone to stand up and do what's right. And this is what I think we're doing today. And we need to give back to our constituents, because this has been, let's face it, folks, it's been a hell of a year for all of us who live in Buncombe County. I mean, it's not pretty, but we're going to get there. And I feel a lot better today than I did when we found out where we were a year ago. And we will get there. But I do think that we're being fiscally responsible if we give a penny back to our constituents, and I will vote for that.
The information I'm looking at, which I think was produced by our finance staff, shows that if we reduce the tax rate to 52.9, the projected fund balance will be reduced from 15.6 to 13.5 in 2 years. And that's if Mission Hospital is sold to HCA, which generates an additional $8 million of revenue for the county in our budget. So it will be less than that. It'll be $8 million less than that if that doesn't happen, which it may or may not, but we just don't know yet. It's not, that process isn't finished. So if that process does happen, it's going to be kind of a game changer in terms of local government revenue. So it sounds like there might be majority support for this. But I guess my final thought on this would be, if the mission sale goes through, that is a sort of a unique opportunity for Buncombe County to look at what our strategic priorities are. You know, what do we want to do over the next 5 years when it comes to pre-K funding? Where do we want to be in terms of support for our schools, you know, and other key initiatives, including the tax rate. You know, there's going to be room to move things on the tax rate in a meaningful way if that happens. But to make a decision now that forecasts us going not just a little bit below our policy on how much fund balance should be preserved, way below it, even if the Mission Hospital sale goes through. To me, it's this next year might be the year you could do more, but if that does take place, but we don't know that yet.
Well, I think something that might help a little bit, Mr. Holland, we do have contingencies built in within the structure of a certain amount of money, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
1.9 million.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
So there, it's not like that, to Chairman Newman's point, which is well received and should be listened to. You know, if the HCA deal goes through, and that's not what this is about. My thought process is not about that. But there's going to be a $500 million foundation that's going to help us address some of these things if it goes through. It's so that in itself, by itself, is an exciting thing, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. But I think this is very responsible, and and I will support it.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I just have the follow-up there. You know, this commission up here respects each other, even though we might not agree on a lot of things, but we respect each other. Chairman Newman, Jasmine, you know, I got the most respect for y'all, and I listen and I pay attention. But I think dropping it 1 penny is the same thing as what Jasmine brought forth 4 months ago of a one-time payback. This is a one-time payback to the citizens of dropping it 1 penny. No different if we have to go back up the penny next year or whatever's there. So I look at it being the same thing as a one-time give back or dropping the rate 1 penny. It's the same thing, so.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Nay.
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 All right, the motion passes 5-2. Any other items?
Yeah, I have a motion. My motion is for school funding. And I have a copy for you. Yeah. In the proposed budget, the commissioners have been asked to allocate $65,211,847 to Buncombe County Schools and $12,185,090 to Asheville City Schools, for a total of $77,396,937. In that total, Buncombe County Schools is recommended by county management to receive an increase of $2,685,477, and Asheville City Schools is recommended to receive an increase of $503,926, for a total county management recommended increase of $3,189,403. I believe that the school systems should be funded at a level sufficient to meet the educational needs of students and to support a terrific workforce of certified and non-certified staff. In that spirit, I believe, however, that we must assure that the goals and requests of the county are fulfilled. Therefore, I move that instead of the proposed county management increases, we increase the allocation to Buncombe County Schools by $1,116,068 and to Asheville City Schools in the amount of $209,428, and that we place the remainder of the original county manager recommended increase of $1,863,907 in the county's fund balance, and should the school systems require the additional funding during the upcoming fiscal year, we would require a formal request and presentation to the board for approval to disperse a portion or all of the remaining $1,863,907. That ends my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? If there's no other discussion, we're going to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, aye.
No.
We're against it. All right, what else? Any other items on the county budget? All right, if there's no other items, we'll vote on the main motion as amended. Any further discussion on the main motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, aye.
Aye.
All right, it passes 5-2. Okay, we still need to do the fire districts. So let's pull that up and
Put it up.
we can walk through these one by one. If anybody would like to make any comments or kind of framing around how they are thinking of approaching this, any high-level comments, a motion on all of them or any one of them is welcome at this time.
I think we've spent more time in the past year talking to firefighters, fire districts. I think the public has a greater understanding of how this works, and this board is fully supportive. I personally think that what firefighters do, I've said this before, there's not enough money in the world that you could be adequately compensated. I have to single out Chief Penland from Swannanoa for probably 3 years ago articulating to me what the difference and how this could be raised and how it could truly affect firefighter pay. And so I applaud him, and I'm glad he's here. But I think it's a good discussion to have. My only interest in raising any of these rates is for firefighter pay and when needed turnout gear. I realize we can't hold anybody accountable to that, but any increases that I would vote for is because I believe that that's what your interests are too. So, and if we want to vote on them one by one, I think they are unique to itself. Commissioner Fryer has thoughts about Barnardsville. I already said what I thought about Swannanoa, so however the rest want to do it.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we take all of them and just start them out at a penny, then move the numbers from that point of the ones that we're looking at.
If those that have asked for less than a penny, though,
Well, okay, let's back it.
yeah.
Okay.
So you're wanting to say that start at a penny or less.
Start at a penny or less, yes, and go from there.
Can I clarify the motion? Please. So are you proposing that everyone who asked for a penny or more as a starting point, we would
Just start at a
provide the
penny.
penny?
Right.
the 1 penny increase. And then if there's any proposals to further increase, we would take those up
Yes,
after that.
yes, sir.
All right, is that clear? So all the districts who requested
The 12 districts.
a penny or less than a penny, they would get the penny or less than the penny. Those would be, that would be approved, and then there might be some follow-up motions for some of the ones who asked for a little more.
Right.
And that's a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll support that.
All right, there's a motion.
Started.
There's a motion and a second to provide a 1 cent increase or up to 1 cent for all the districts that requested a 1 cent or more, who requested an increase. For those who requested less than 1 cent, it would be simply for the amount that they did request. We're not gonna give anyone more than they asked for, in other words, right?
Right.
Right. All right, discussion.
Yeah, I would suggest that Jim or someone read that list of those that would be at.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna do it, Jim?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So, on the screen, you'll see for the FY 2019 proposed that is blank. And next to that, to the
Okay.
left, you see what their proposed increase was. So as I understood what the motion and the approved motion is, all of those that are blank will receive at most 1 cent increase.
With
The
this-
only,
Yeah.
the only one that requested less than a cent is North Buncombe, which requested 0.8. So what I heard the motion to be and approved is North Buncombe would get what their request was. And you would have a starting point of, for the rest that requested an increase of 1 penny.
Right.
And if you wish to change any of that, you would do that by a subsequent motion. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
I think
Yes,
he
you
nailed it.
got it.
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any further adjustments?
I will make a motion for Barnardsville at 3%.
3 cents.
3 cents. Sorry, I keep saying percent. Is that 3 cents?
Yeah, 3 cents.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second for Barnardsville to be a total increase of 3 cents, not 3 cents on top of the 1 cent. Is that correct?
I
Right.
think that.
Right,
Not 4 cents, but 3
Right.
cents
Right.
total.
3 cents.
All right.
So it'd be 19. It's currently 16, it would be 19.
Right.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Oh,
Go ahead.
and, I ain't got the numbers here, but that sounds like a lot, 3 cents, but with that community, what is that, like 30?
Ask the gentleman to your right. That's his district. That's Mike.
It's about a little over $110,000,
Yeah.
maybe.
It's not a lot.
4 cents is 144.
So is that sustainable for them, Mr. Fryer? Is that okay with them? Or do we need to do the 4?
Personally, I have had discussions, and all that does is just break them even. And so if that's where we're at, then we're there, but 4 gets them to where just to have a little bit
Okay,
ahead.
I'll amend mine to 4 then.
Does,
Need a second.
did you make the
Yeah.
second?
I'll make a
Okay,
second.
sorry, do you agree
Second
with that?
on the
Okay, so
forward.
it's 4 cents now. So it would be 20 cents. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Any others?
Make a motion to give Broad River an increase of 2.
Second.
Wow, that's hard to see.
So that would be a change from 14 cents to 16 cents.
That's what they-
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
I would like to make a motion for Upper Hominy for 2 cents.
Can we go in order, do you mind?
That'd be
Yeah, mine.
awesome. That'd be awesome.
My
Yeah,
little-
you're losing me. if you mind.
So East Buncombe is next.
Well, currently East Buncombe is getting 1%. 1 cent. Golly.
No, East Buncombe, asked for 2.2 cents.
2.1?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion
Yes,
to do what?
2.1.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's to adjust it from 9.9 to 12. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Aye. The next one on the list is Fairview. If we're just gonna go down the list further, or are there any others that
Sure.
people wanna?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I just ask a clarification on East Buncombe?
Mhm.
So did the board approve the increase to 12 cents for East Buncombe from 9.9?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for clarifying. All right, any others that people wanna do something different on? Going once? Any others? All right, is that it? We through all the ones people want to discuss further?
Chairman,
Oh.
Commissioner Presley, did you have,
Something?
Yes, the upper hominy from 12.50 to 14.50.
Is there a second?
second?
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. All right, is that it?
I don't know, Swananoa,
Okay.
to go to 1.10.
Second.
To do 1.1 cent. So from 12.9 to 14. Is that right?
So,
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Yes, ma'am.
We're a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Pull the mic up.
And
You need to be, you need to be in it.
Is it on?
Here.
I think that we're gonna need a motion and a
Okay.
second to amend the budget to add the fire tax rates in.
Okay.
They should have been included before the
Okay.
approval.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to amend the budget to include the fire tax rates.
Second.
As previously discussed and amended in the
And
recent
amended,
votes.
yeah.
Right. So that's all part of the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Mr. Holland, are there any other budget items that we need to address?
No, sir. What we will do is we will make those changes to the budget ordinance and have that updated and have that posted for the public and as well as for your signature.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, and thank you to all the staff who worked hard
Yeah.
to put this
Wow.
budget together and
Wow.
present the information, and thank you all your commissioners for deliberation on it.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
All right, under new business, we added the Heather Hockaday contract. Are there any questions or a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Second. To approve the contract.
Okay, and I recognize this was not, we did put this on the agenda tonight, so I know everyone's not been able to see this. We do have copies of it here. So apologies for not being able to get this information out sooner, as we try to do. But are there any members of the public who have any comments, who would like to comment on the motion? All right, bringing it back to the board. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a resolution appointing an interim county manager. And Does everyone have a copy of the resolution for this? This is another item that was very much a work in progress over the last week. And so we've been conducting personnel meetings to explore options. And we have ended up zeroing in on a candidate that we think brings excellent qualifications to this job. And so George Wood is the resolution is to appoint George Wood to serve as an interim manager. Mr. Wood has worked in local government for over 30 years, most recently serving the counties of Wayne County in eastern North Carolina and Lincoln County in the Piedmont of North Carolina. He's also worked for numerous municipalities in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee over the last 2 decades. And we were although this was a process that we were very focused on, we knew we needed to make a decision swiftly, but we were very fortunate to have a number of really great people talk to the county commission over the last 10 days about their interest in serving as our interim. David Nicholson with the North Carolina County Commissioner Association is here this evening. I want to give a shout out to David and the County Commissioner Association for helping us reach out to some different folks who have experience in local government to let them know that we have an interim position open, and to encourage some really great folks to come talk to us. And so, so through this process, Mr. Wood emerged as the candidate that the commission would like to focus on. And just a couple other thoughts. One of the things I was just really impressed by, I was able to call some of the elected officials and public staff that have worked with Mr. Wood over many years, including recent service in other county governments. And I heard things, the repeated message I heard was things like, one gentleman had worked for county government for 40 years, and he said, I've worked for Wayne County for 40 years. And George Wood was the best county commissioner we had during that entire time. The mayor of the largest town in that county said that he thought the county was 15 years ahead of where it would be had they not brought in Mr. Wood to first serve as their interim and then as their permanent manager for a number of years. So we've heard a lot of really glowing things about his past work, and so we feel fortunate to have an opportunity to consider him for the interim position this evening. So is any other comments or a motion on the interim appointment? We will take public comment on this.
Yeah, I've got a comment for just so Mr. Wood knows. We've had people calling us. I hear you're talking to George. I got a call yesterday from a very high-ranking person in North Carolina and about your work in oh gosh, not Lincolnton, but my mind just went blank in the city.
Wayne County?
No.
Kings Mountain.
Kings Mountain. And thinking, said, if you're looking at George is amazing. You need to get George. So we continue to find those references, and I know that with all the time that you've worked in county government, it's got to be very pleasing to you, but it's very pleasing to us. And we're but the other thing that struck me when we did the interviews, we got a lot of great advice from
Wonderful advice.
wonderful
Sure did.
advice from people that had worked in across the state and had worked even here with the city, and we just got amazing advice that I thought was very, very helpful. And George stood out, and I'm grateful that he's willing to step in too.
And I had a call from one of your former commissioners, and I'm going to take you out to Lake Julian because from what he said, I want to see you walk on water. Yeah, he was real.
Okay. Is there any
Yeah.
other comments? Yeah.
And also,
That's pressure.
what impressed me was the number of references he had, and I think it was myself and Chairman Newman and Ellen that stayed afterward, and we picked a couple of them to call, which it was a Friday afternoon, so we got voicemail. So over the weekend, I had the opportunity to talk to two people that also talked very highly of you. said we would make a good choice if that's the way we decide to go, so.
So, no pressure.
Okay, is there a motion?
Make a
After or
motion.
before Lake Julian?
I'm not putting him under that kind of pressure, so I'll make a motion.
No, we won't.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Okay, and just also for clarity on our purpose here, so we have a resolution. We also have an engagement letter. And should we approve the resolution and then approve the engagement letter?
Yes, I would approve the resolution, and then as the chairman, once the resolution's passed, I would sign the essentially the offer letter, which also is the engagement letter, and then have Mr. Wood, if he accepts, sign the acceptance.
Okay, great. All right, so this is for the resolution. And we'll take public comment. So Mr. Yelton, you want to start us off?
Is that you? Welcome, sir. Don Yelton, I don't care if he does walk on water. Mr. Holland, will you please explain to this gentleman and the head of finance what we have talked about in the past about putting the budget and the checks on the internet? Because one of the things that I'm pushing for, and I hope this disruption doesn't cause it, because if you will put line items on the internet, then I can monitor where the money goes, where the check's written. And guess what I would have seen? Several million go to an insurance company, wouldn't I? Because you're also going to put your transfers on there. And that's 2.3 million of your 3.6 million that you were talking about, sir. Right there. It will be saved next year. So I want to encourage you to please do that, so the citizens of Buncombe County can watch exactly where the money goes, because we deserve the right to know where our money goes. And we will help you keep an eye on who's buying gift cards and who's buying insurance and what's going on behind closed doors. So, sir, if you do that, I'll say you walk on water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Anyone else? All right. I'll bring it back to the board. We've got a motion and a second on a resolution appointing George Wood as interim county manager. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to approve the engagement letter?
So moved.
Second?
All right, it's pretty short. I'm just going to read it since we didn't have a chance to get
be
this
great.
out.
Yeah.
Dear Mr. Wood, at their June 19th, 2018 regular meeting, the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners voted to designate and appoint you as interim county manager in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 153A84. Please accept this letter and sign, if agreeable, that this board will compensate you at the rate of $83 per hour for time expended in fulfilling your duties for this board and Buncombe County. This interim appointment shall end on the earlier of February 28th, 2019, or the appointment and swearing in of the new county manager. It is understood that due to your status in the North Carolina local government retirement system, your maximum pay for this interim period cannot exceed $83,111, nor can you work for more than 999 hours. As a retiree in the retirement system, you are ultimately responsible for your compliance with all return to work laws. Also, you will be reimbursed for travel and reasonable lodging consistent with county policies. When you are in your office, you will be provided with a computer and other electronic devices as appropriate. Sincerely, Brownie Newman. All right.
Need a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Actually, we already have one.
We may.
Okay.
Already got one.
Good.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Well, I'm going to sign this. I hope Mr. Wood will too. And we look forward to working with you, Mr. Wood. And Buncombe County is a great place to live and work. And so a lot of these folks who are here with us this evening, you'll be seeing them again. We have a very engaged community, and we look forward to working with you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the resolution approving commercial hauler rebate program.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as you know, we are in the process of completing a new transfer station for the receipt of trash from Buncombe County. That new transfer station will increase our capacity at least double and perhaps triple. That transfer station is costing us to build approximately $10 to $10.5 million. As part of that process, we currently collect about slightly less than half of all the trash that is generated in Buncombe County. One of the things that we know that haulers have said to us is that because of that new transfer station and their ability to make sure that they get in and out quickly to be able to serve the residents and businesses in Buncombe County, they are going to use our transfer station, and we are going to see an increase in the amount of trash that comes in there. While that's a good thing from the perspective of added revenue that we need to support our solid waste department as it is an enterprise fund, it's also the reality that by doing that, we need to have a competitive advantage in order to do that. We're mindful that we do not want and are continually working to not decrease the life of the landfill. We currently have a landfill capacity of between 35 and 40 years. Our goal is to maintain that and improve that. There are several initiatives that are underway now to make sure that we recover landfill space that has already been utilized, and using technology to create additional capacity and air capacity. We believe that we're on a path that we will not decrease the life of our landfill. To that regard, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is to incentivize large haulers particularly to continue to bring trash as we move to the landfill. We currently have a rebate system in place that currently, for any hauler that brings 23,000 tons or more a year to our landfill or transfer station, is eligible to receive a rebate of $4 per ton for the total amount of trash they bring in based on a calendar year. We are asking that this threshold be lowered to 12,000 tons per year to be eligible to receive the $4 per ton rebate. We have done careful analysis to assure that any increased capacity is being able to be withstood within the landfill and not decrease the life of the landfill. We're also very mindful that this is not incentivizing additional trash creation in Buncombe County. This is trash that's already being generated, and we will continue our efforts with our current franchise holder as well as in the community to support and encourage recycling and other alternatives to reduce the amount of trash that's generated and that will wind up in our landfill. This proposal is asking you to decrease that tonnage to 12,000 and to allow us to do that effective with calendar year 2017. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So a lot of the trash generated here has been leaving, and the revenue has been leaving. So this is an attempt to bring the revenue back, and we're able to manage that in a practical way, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
All right, let's take public comment on the motion. Any public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. Holland. All right, next up is a resolution supporting the creation of a domestic violence fatality review team, and Julie Clip-Nicholson will start us off. Thank you for being here, Julie.
Good evening, Commissioners. This resolution comes to you on behalf of the Buncombe County Coordinated Community Response to Domestic and Sexual Violence. This is a multidisciplinary group of folks who have been working together collaboratively to address domestic violence in our community over the past several years. As you know, we've done a lot of work. We opened the Family Justice Center, and as of last week, almost 1,000 people have walked through the doors for the first time to get connected to those services. But we also know that we still have work to be done in this community. Just this year, we've lost Tina Knighton, Erica and Harmony Smith, and Keith Ann Whitmire to domestic violence homicides. So we ask you tonight to honor their lives and support the designation of Buncombe County as a domestic violence fatality review team. There is currently legislation pending in the General Assembly that would add Buncombe County to the list of 4 counties that have designated domestic violence fatality review teams with specified membership and processes to take a look at were there systems issues that could have been addressed to prevent these homicides. Currently, the House Bill 217 passed in April of 2017, and Senate Bill and House Bill Senate Bill 135 and House Bill 217 are pending in the Senate. And Senator Edwards has requested a resolution from this board expressing your support of the addition of Buncombe County as a domestic violence fatality review bill to move forward with that designation in the North Carolina General Assembly. Happy to answer any questions.
Just like to say thank you to you and your colleagues for the work you do every day. I certainly support this resolution based on the recommendation from you all that having this kind of review team would help us better address systems issues, and also based on the experience I have serving on the team that reviews child protection and child fatality incidents in the county. You know, it's a grave task. And I see it not just as a way to think about systems issues that comes up, but also a way to honor the folks that we lose in our community and to try to make sure that when tragedies do occur, hopefully we learn from them and they won't occur again. And have found that serving on that cross-disciplinary team, which brings together people from different sectors, different backgrounds, different perspectives, creates an environment where there can be that kind of community level learning that hopefully helps us make this a safer community for everyone. So want to share that additional reason for my support for this resolution.
Was that a motion?
Yes, it was. Or was it?
I actually did make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I didn't know if others wanted to.
I'll second it, and I want to echo what Jasmine said. This community suffered a horrific tragedy, and we know people suffer, people are battered, bruised all the time, and anything we can do to bring light on that, to stop it, and so I fully support the work you're doing in this.
So I'd like to comment. I'm grateful for the work that's done at Family Justice Center and the work that you guys do. Also, I was against putting this on the agenda because I haven't had a lot of time to study it. And actually, you know, I've been tagging each other, and it's just been a very busy time with the budget. And I'm not going to be able to support it for that reason. I need more information, and the resolution itself doesn't drill down enough for me, and I just haven't had enough time to spend on it. I doubt that affects the vote, but I need more. I need more time with it, and hopefully I'll get that.
And I'm looking at the same prospect of it for one reason. They did a bill that's going to help us. We don't need to do a resolution to make the bill work because the bill's there already. So I want to look at it a little further too. You know, you said we have a bill, and we do. But I haven't seen the whole thing, and I have had some discussion, but I'm still not fully there yet either. As long as it, from what I understand, whether we put a resolution through or not, it will work for us anyway, because the bill's been set to do it. and Buncombe County is one of them that it's going to do it in. So it's, I want to talk a little further to the state before I go there. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, can you verify any of that we don't need the resolution? Because yesterday, with as busy as we've been, I tried to contact Senator Edwards, and he was on his way to Raleigh, and he was going in and out, and I did not get enough information from him that I can support it. I mean, as of right now, I need more information. I need more time with this.
Certainly. During the long session in 2017, the two bills were introduced that would add us to the list of designated counties. Just last week, right before we requested this resolution, Senator Edwards introduced a separate bill, Senate Bill 808, that would create a domestic violence task force in Buncombe County. It would not add us to the designated domestic violence fatality review counties that have that specified membership and the confidentiality container that is created within that best practice that's been laid out and been in place for Mecklenburg County since 2009, for Alamance County, Guilford County, and Pitt County since 2013.
But I have an understanding that you have an understanding, but me sitting here, I don't have an understanding of what we're still talking about. So I'd rather, if I could sit down with you and had an understanding and then talk to Senator Edwards, it'd be a different deal, but I can't vote on something I don't really understand.
Can we put this off until we all get more information? Because I think this is a very important thing that we all need to understand before a vote goes through.
It's my understanding, oh, go ahead, Al.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but, you know, it's pretty clear to me, the resolution is that we're supporting it in Buncombe County. You know, I don't need to understand any more, you know, as far as the resolution is concerned, and I'm going to vote for it. Maybe I'm just a country boy who don't understand, but
I just want to understand.
yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
The timeline for the resolution was relatively short, but with the timeline of the closing of the short session, we would request the resolution move forward as quickly as possible.
So that's why you're speeding it. That's why it's fast.
Yeah.
And the reason this is expedited, it originates with Senator Edwards, if I understand, in that in the sense that this process was underway that sort of progressed the way this typically does. The county requested to be designated in this way. That process was underway legislatively, and Senator Edwards intervened in that process and requested a resolution against the backdrop of a very tight timeline. So I see this as an opportunity for us to be responsive to that request, and by acting tonight to make sure that the legislative process that's underway and seems to be moving smoothly in most regards can continue, so that we can make sure we're doing our very best as our other peer counties in the state to respond to the crisis of domestic violence. So that's the frame I'd put around it, Mike, Robert, and Joe, around the expedited timeline, which originates with the senator, and also this being I've heard about this nearly from the time we took our oath of office back at the end of 2016.
Right.
So.
All right, there's a motion and a second. We will take public comment on the motion. Yes, please come forward.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important issue. My name is April Burgess Johnson. I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director for Helpmate, the organization here in Buncombe County that provides safety, shelter, and support to survivors of domestic violence. I've had the opportunity to sit since its inception on the leadership team for the Family Justice Center, where we've had multiple discussions about the creation of a fatality review team for Buncombe County. Introducing this team would give us the opportunity to honor the lives of people that our community has lost because of domestic violence by looking back through their cases after they've been adjudicated and that court process has completed, to look for ways that we can further improve our system to prevent future loss of life. This is an important next step in the work that you've already invested in to be able to increase our community support for victims and prevent these kind of tragedies from continuing to occur in our community. On a night that we're talking about the budget, I think it's also important to note that this is a no-cost opportunity for our community to strengthen the work that we're doing. This is simply adding legislative protections to let organizations like Helpmate be able to participate in these fatality review teams and share information that we would otherwise be banned by law from being able to share within this closed, confined environment, exactly parallel to the same process that happens with the child fatality review teams that already exist in our community. So this is not creating something entirely new. This is applying an existing structure that we know has been proven to be effective, not just in other counties, but here in Buncombe County, to another type of issue, to another type of loss. And so for that reason, I strongly urge you to support this resolution so that we can move this important piece of legislation forward. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Hardesty, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I'm going to try to talk really short. I don't think I can add anything that's already been said, but I too serve on the leadership team as a survivor voice, as well as I'm the chair of the Voices Committee, which is a national survivor advocacy network who really works to hold the community as well as the FJC accountable to survivors. And in doing that, I feel fatality review team is imperative to preventing domestic violence homicides in this community. And I feel that it's incredibly urgent to get that done by the short session in light of what we've already experienced this year. That's really all I have to add, but I thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll bring it back to the board. There's a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
No.
Okay, is that clear?
I think so.
Was the vote clear? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda is a resolution authorizing execution of modification agreement with the City of Asheville. And Tim Love and Jennifer Pike are here to help us out with this one.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners.
Thank you.
For this evening's presentation on the resolution, asked Jennifer Pike, our tax collector, to present with us. We've got a couple slides just to facilitate this discussion. In front of you, you do have the resolution as well as the modification agreement itself. The modification agreement is based on discussions that we've had with the city that were raised in the city-county collaboration meeting earlier this year. As you're aware, the city expressed some concerns about the fee that they were paying for county tax collections of city tax bills. Based on those conversations, you advised staff to work with the city, and we did. We collaborated on a plan that resulted in both a short-term and a long-term plan. That short-term plan is this modification agreement, which we brought to you today, which is a one-year agreement that would sort of adjust the rate to prior year's fees. We believe that the fees escalated as it related to reval, so wanted to sort of right-size those fees. In terms of our long-term plan, which is over the next 12 to 18 months, we hope to work with the city to identify our longer-term strategy for tax collection fees that's more sustainable and more dynamic. Those conversations are underway, and we've been working with the city directly. Our request of you today is to approve this one-year modification, which would reset the fees to $795,000. On our next slide, to provide some additional context for you, Jennifer Pike will walk us through the historical trend of the collection fees, just so you have some context before you provide your votes.
Thank you, Tim. Chairman and Commissioners, this graph illustrates a slight increase in the fees from 2015 to 16 and then 16 to 17, and then a sharper increase of approximately 13% from 2017 to 2018. I will mention that 2018 we were collecting 2017 taxes, so those were following a revaluation and an increase in levy. So that's the reason for the increase. You'll also see where the proposed 2019 lies. As we move forward in the long term, as Tim mentioned, developing this fee structure, we'll also consider how our peer counties structure their collection agreements with the entities they collect on behalf of, to kind of make sure we're in the mix and we're in line with what's going on with our peer counties. Our goal is to develop a fee structure that's equitable for both the county and the city. And we will also be reviewing the agreements for the other municipalities we collect on behalf of. That would be Black Mountain, Woodfin, and Montreat. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this point.
So help me understand why the jump.
The city collection fees are a flat percentage rate, which is 1.5%, and it's been that way for many years. So as their levy increased, the 1.5% that we retained increased.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any public comment? All right, further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution authorizing small claims committee settlement authority. Kurt Euler will tee this one up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm here to, I guess, request that the commission delegate their authority for settling claims under $30,000 to a committee that consists of the county legal services, which would be the senior attorney 2, the county manager, and the finance director. We have a lot of claims that we need to deal with on a fairly timely basis, and we've felt that this number is a fair number, so that for the bigger claims, we have to bring them to you for you to make a decision. But for a lot of these things where people's cars may get hit and we need to get them taken care of quickly, we find that this has been a good method. We've had this before. It's usually included in the budget ordinance, but this year we've pulled it out, which is requiring the separate the separate resolution.
All right. Questions or motion?
The only thing I would say is I would feel more comfortable if somebody from the audit committee could be on that committee as well.
So does that give you any heartburn as a negotiator?
Not so much as usually the negotiations all taken care of at this point in time. It's usually just getting the claim process, is getting the people approval. But if you all, we do have the internal auditor. If you all want to amend the resolution and add the internal auditor or someone like that, I have no qualms about that.
So if we were to do what Commissioner Frost suggested, then that person would just be part of signing off on the money is all.
It pretty much would be part of an email chain saying, we're settling this, property damage claim for $6,000. Does anybody have any objections? And yes.
So, with workman's comp or whatever it is, you know, you have authority to be able to do these things. You negotiate those things, whether it's mediation or dealing with an insurance company. We're just trying to expedite that process. And before, was the amount a little lower? Was it?
No, it's been $30,000, I believe, for quite some time.
So why are we doing the resolution if it's been that way all the time?
Well, because we usually include it in the budget ordinance that you all adopt on an annual basis, but this year, we've pulled out sort of the things that really don't relate to the budget. So this is sort of a standalone now, when normally in the past it's been sort of put in the budget ordinance.
So if you're comfortable with that, I would, if Commissioner Frost would put that in the form of a motion for approval of the resolution with that change, I would second that.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution with amending it to have someone from the audit committee sit on that committee as well.
So you just add, after finance director, you would add member of the audit committee.
Yes.
And do you have a specific, I'm not exactly sure of who is on the audit committee. Would that be a county employee, or would that be someone from outside?
May we request input from our internal auditor who's present?
Yeah, who that should be, yeah.
We could also just ask the committee to make an appointment at their next meeting.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
so they could let them choose who they want.
Let them choose.
Let's hear from her, though.
But I want to hear from
Please.
Terry for sure.
Yeah, that's it. Here.
Oh, we can do it either way you prefer. I'm not on the audit committee. The audit committee is 2 commissioners plus 5 members of the community. So at your pleasure, we could do it either way.
I think someone from the audit committee. And let the audit committee make that decision, who would represent them. Yeah.
So the only, I guess, if all the other folks are full-time staff, I mean, the only question would be, I mean, how much workload is there, I guess, is my question, and would appointing someone who's, basically volunteering on the audit committee,
Yeah.
would this slow down the process?
I guess I wouldn't know. I guess it's just how timely people respond to emails. That's usually the big thing. I don't foresee a big need in that, but I do want to say that we do have a fairly big load. I mean, it's not a little, there are a lot of little things, but usually it's nothing very big. But there is a lot of little stuff. But I'm happy to work at it, and if we are having issues or something like that, we can always come back and try to fix it.
Right.
Are there any, I'm looking at our attorneys, are there any legal considerations we'd need to think about if a community member were serving on a committee reviewing legal settlements?
I mean, we could say staff member of the audit committee and let you choose.
There aren't any staff members.
There aren't staff.
They're
on the
only
audit committee.
commissioners.
staff
That's the
members.
closest thing you have to a staff member. I do have some concern about asking an audit committee member to approve something that they're really not going to have a lot of knowledge about, unless it is a commissioner who may be comfortable doing that. But the community members, I'm not sure that would be fair to ask of them.
So,
Why
Robert,
can't,
Al,
why can't we appoint the internal auditor to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have no.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll amend my motion to say,
'Cause she's here.
approve the resolution and amend it that the internal auditor also serves on the small claims committee.
so Commissioner Frost, all you're doing is adding to 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th, whereas you're adding the internal auditor. Is all
Yes.
you're adding.
And I think that would be under the, now therefore, you would be adding that in subsection 1. That would be adding the internal auditor in that.
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
I'm fine with seconding that.
all right, we've got a motion and a second. Any public comment? Mr. Yelton?
Oh, you left. Still here?
I'm sitting back there and I'm thinking, isn't that what the consent agenda's for? I mean, don't you all as commissioners need to know how many claims are being settled? and what the dollar amount is? And don't you need to see that? And doesn't the citizens need to see that? So if you have a budget line item, which you're gonna have to settle these claims, those checks are gonna come out of that and be posted on the internet. And all you gotta do is have those listed on the consent agenda, and then you can bring it forward if you see something there you wanna discuss. I can't figure out why this is getting so complex. If 30,000 is the limit, they write the check, they approve it. All you see is the money, where it goes. You're watching the line item. If it gets a little heavy, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna check and see why it's heavy. Doesn't hurt to have it on that consent agenda, does it? Not one bit. And that lets you, as commissioners, see each check that's written. Just my thoughts. More about transparency, more double checking, more watching the cash.
All right, anybody else? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution regarding daily deposits. Eric Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The law requires that local governments deposit into their bank account on a daily basis all money collected. This is the rule in normal course of business. The law also permits an exception to this rule, and that exception is the purpose of this discussion. For context and background, and for the benefit of the public, cash checks and money orders are collected at dozens of sites throughout the county. Examples include tax payments, per bag charges to drop off trash at the county's landfill and transfer station, and rental fees for park facilities. In each of these instances, this cash is recorded in the accounting software and a receipt is produced. Sometime each day, an employee will aggregate all money collected at a particular site, prepare a bank deposit slip, and deliver that money to the bank for deposit. The deposit slip is forwarded to the finance staff for reconciliation with the bank statement. Any money collected for the remainder of the day is kept under lock and key until the next day's deposit is prepared. Again, this is the rule for daily deposit. However, there are some sites throughout the county that collect minimal charges and fees. Think of library branches, which may collect only nominal late fees or rental charges for library materials. In these instances, your finance staff recognizes that it may be inefficient to prepare and deliver a bank deposit each day. This brings us to our recommendation that the board adopt this resolution, which permits the safekeeping of money until the amount reaches $250 or until the last business day of each month. Either of these events will trigger the requirement to make the bank deposit. In the prior year, the governing body approved this matter and this threshold as part of the annual budget ordinance, a familiar theme for tonight. Upon counsel from this county's legal staff and the internal auditor, we are presenting this resolution for your consideration tonight as a matter separate from the budget ordinance. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Has the amount always been 500 and 250?
So the law was revised in last year to raise that to $500. Our policy has been $250, and we're recommending that we hold that at the same level.
At 250?
At 250, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any public comment? All right, further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Hardy. All right, and the final resolution is setting fees and costs for fiscal year 2019.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, continuing the theme that we've heard tonight on these resolutions, in an effort to make sure that we focus the budget ordinance on the specifics to the budget, we are asking for these resolutions coming forward. This final resolution is the resolution where you set and approve the fees that are being recommended by departments. Normally, what we've done is do some of those at the beginning of the year, and some of those we've not done until there's been a change. What we're doing now is each year, we will bring those fees to you and ask you to approve those fees on a yearly basis. That's what this resolution is asking you to do. So as you notice that there are fees related to the Department of Public Health or Division of Public Health through Health and Human Services, their billing guide, the Identification Bureau, their fees related to that, Parks, Greenways, and Recreation fees, permits and inspections, planning, and solid waste. And as you may have seen, if you've reviewed these, you've seen how the fees are being identified if there's a change in fees. I would point out one additional fee that is not marked in red as the others are, and that's in solid waste and the tipping fees. We are requesting that you approve an increase of 75 cents per ton at both the transfer station and the landfill. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there a motion to approve or otherwise?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any public comment on the motion? Further discussion on the board?
The only thing I would add is just for the public, there's 45 pages. The only thing I would add for the public is there is 45 pages. If you want to go through and see what all the fees are, it's very clear.
That's it.
And thank you for the information.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Okay, let's move to board appointments. We have 6 vacancies.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint to the HS board those folks recommended by the board, and they are Gregory Nero, Wendy Boxer, Richard Munger, Stephen Leckox, Daniel Frame, Carol Colson, Johnny Grant.
Okay, I think
not.
Boxer was not on that
It's
list.
not
Boxer,
on
I'm
it.
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yeah.
you said 7
Right,
rather than
yeah.
6.
Okay. There's a motion to appoint the 6 members recommended by the HHS board. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we now come to public comment. And this is an opportunity where folks can address the county commission on any matters that, unless we've previously discussed it already in the meeting this evening. The time limit for individual comment to the board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any question along with your name, address, and phone number with Jim Holland. Board members are not expected to comment on any matters during this period. This is the public's chance to talk to the board. And are there any members of the public who would like to comment? Mr. Yelton.
Well, I feel like a mosquito at a nudist colony. So many places to go and so little time to get there. But first and foremost, I think it took guts on your part, Brownie, to bring up what you brought up about cutting salary, and I appreciate that, because that was a good discussion. And Al, I appreciate what you brought up about the school money. That showed some banking knowledge and thought, and very logically presented. And yeah, it was good to see you all, Robert, up there discussing, because that's a whole lot better than discussing behind closed doors. And I got some concerns. And one of the concerns I had was when I heard that we had hired an attorney to represent us to get some money back. And I started asking around, and I said, when was the vote taken on that? And I know how attorneys work. But if you can show me in the minutes of an open meeting where you voted to hire Ron Payne, I'd sure appreciate it. Because I talked to the Institute of Governments. And I was told, and this was an attorney, of course we know attorneys have opinions, and opinions are like what we sit on. Everybody smells once in a while, me included. I may be wrong on this, but I was told you can discuss in closed session what you want to discuss, but when it comes to signing a contract or hiring someone, that has to be done in public. And I don't think that may have been done in the past. And you know, when you start slipping into those habits, guess where you're slipping, Al? Right back in to where the money was changed hands and nobody knew where it was going. That's why I keep pushing. Put that check on the internet, do it as a line item, and everybody can help you all, because we're not here to attack you or assassinate you. I love to see you all have discussions out here. And, you know, sometimes you forget to turn your mic on, but that's all right. And I'm getting old and hard of hearing, so I'm going to start sitting in the front. But I welcome the new staff. And you're going to have a hard job keeping up with Kathy, but I think you're prepared for it. And your attorney, she's in trouble. She lives in my community. They got the block in the ground today. So it's coming on up. So I just want you to know, sometimes I get pretty hard on you. But if you'll think about what I said, it's true. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So I would like to talk a little bit about harm reduction and the syringe exchange that you have discussed previously. So my name is Michel Guichenet, and I'm a co-founder of the Steady Collective. I'm French by birth and American by choice, and I'm in long-term recovery. I shot dope in Paris, France in the 80s. There was no dealer exchange and syringes. Syringes were shared, reused, and resharpened time and time again. Fast forward to 1997, I just moved to the United States. I'm diagnosed with hepatitis non-A, non-B. Fast forward again, 2011. I've been 5 years into my recovery, and I'm diagnosed with stage 4 cirrhosis of the liver, stage 4 cirrhosis of the liver. As a result of it, I did several trips to the ER. I had liver cancer, liver transplant, complications from liver transplant that sent me on my deathbed. The hospital asked my family and friends to come to my bedside, and I was asked to write my advance directive. The night when I was supposed to die, I had an experience with life, death, and the bigger one, what I call the bigger one. The next day, the doctors were very surprised by my comeback that was showing in my lab works. And they also told me that I was accepted in a clinical trial for the new Hep C medication. There is a reason why I'm here. And I like to think that part of it is to bring awareness on the topic of infectious diseases transmitted through infected syringes. One syringe costs 6.9 cents, and the new Hep C treatment costs $75,000. We are all paying for that. For some of that goes somewhere, all of us. I believe that every fellow human has to be treated with respect and dignity.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, a couple of announcements on, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Amy, sorry. Come on up.
Hi. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the ones that did vote for having faith in us as a school board. But right now I'm speaking as myself, Amy Churchill. Just wanted to say that, first of all, I must have been at a different meeting from Don Yelton, because with regards to the school budget discussion, I didn't hear any kind of discussion, let alone logical. What I heard was a motion from Commissioner Whitesides to put money into the fund balance. I heard a second, and I heard votes. So at some point, I'd really love to sit down, for me personally, as a citizen of this county, to hear exactly where your concerns are with how we handle things in our schools. Because there are several people that I believe are sitting here right now that could tell you differently, as well as several parents that I know that are quite concerned with the way things are headed right now and the abuse that's been heaped upon public schools. And all I'm going to say is I'd really like to invite each and every one of you to come and visit a school, any time. And perhaps you might want to sub at one of them. And I'm not talking about just the time where you get to dress up like Dr. Seuss and read. I mean, really go in and look and see what those kids are doing and what they deal with every day. Because quite frankly, I think we do a great job. And again, I am speaking for myself. No other board member even knew I was walking up here. This is all me and my thoughts on this. But I just couldn't sit there and let that go. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to the ones that showed support for us. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right. On July 10th at 5 p.m., the County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting at 200 College Street, room 326. The next scheduled meeting of the County Commission will be on August 7th at 5 p.m. at 200 College Street in room 326. No, July 10th is the next, and then the one after that is August 7th. We do need to do a closed session to discuss an economic development item. Is that correct, Mr. Euler?
Yes, I would need a motion for you all to go. I'm happy to read one out, and then
Go
you
ahead,
can,
please.
okay. That I need a motion that the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners go into closed session for the following reason: to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the Board of Commissioners, including agreements on tentative lists of economic development incentives that may be offered in negotiations, provided that any actions authorizing the payment of economic development incentives will occur in open session. The statutory authority is contained in General Statute 143-318.11A4.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the County Commission is adjourning into closed session. As we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, there is a reception for Kathy Hughes in room 330. So I invite everyone to feel free to stop by and say hey to Kathy and enjoy some refreshments. Okay. All right, we're in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, will you be taking any action after the closed session?
I don't think we are anticipated to take any action when we come back into after the closed session. Thank you.